General Kale Thryn stood at the front of the ops hall, his steely eyes scanning his officers as they watched the predator pups march in, their perfectly combed fur shimmering under the dim lights. The sight was unexpected. Just a moment before the briefing, a soft beeping sound echoed in the background. A reminder blinked on the screen. The predator pups, bred for years to be apex warriors, were supposed to be fierce and unyielding. Yet now they entered with their fur intricately styled. Some had their combed fur in shapes and intricate braids, almost as if they had come straight from a beauty salon rather than a battlefield. Thryn's talons scraped against the podium as he struggled to maintain control over his rising confusion. "Where, Lieutenant Call? And why are my finest soldiers?" He stopped himself, noticing the cub's unusual appearance. "Grooming," Lieutenant Orrin Call said, standing at attention. He hesitated before continuing. "Sir, they refuse to engage in combat training. They're requesting grooming sessions." Thryn's eyes narrowed, his lips curling into a snarl. "What?" "Yes, sir. The cubs are grooming. They requested sessions with the human specialist." Call shifted uneasily, his voice tinged with disbelief. "The human specialist," Thryn repeated. "Get me the human." It was less than 10 minutes before the human entered, carrying a small compact kit that seemed far too primitive for a military operation. She was shorter than any warrior in the room, with no visible weapons or armor. Yet her presence carried an unexplainable air of confidence. She looked at Thryn with a small smile, completely at ease. Her attire, a simple jacket and pants, seemed out of place among the towering warriors. "Hi, I'm Tavira," she said, glancing around the room. "I've been assisting with the grooming protocols. Is everything all right?" Thryn stared at her, struggling to comprehend the situation. "For care, you're a civilian hairdresser. Why are you here?" Tavira blinked, slightly surprised by his intensity, and said, "Well, it's not just about the fur. It's about health and confidence. When they feel good about their appearance, they perform better, right?" "Perform better." Thryn's voice dropped low and menacing. "These cubs are warriors. They should be focused on battle, not grooming." Tavira shrugged and walked over to one of the cubs, taking a small brush from her kit. She began brushing through the cub's fur methodically, her movements calm and confident. "I thought it was just hair too," she admitted. "But when I helped, I noticed a change. The cubs became more cooperative. They trusted each other more. Their focus, it's been through the roof." Thryn frowned, still skeptical. "Trust from combing fur," he muttered. Tavira continued to work on the cub's fur, the comb gliding through effortlessly. "The grooming isn't just about looking nice. It's about caring for yourself and each other. They learn to help one another, form bonds, and that improves teamwork. It's basic psychology. Feeling good makes you fight better." Thryn glanced at his officers, confusion and anger mixing in his mind. He opened a data pad and scanned the training reports, his talons trembling as he observed the results. Cooperation plus 20%, combat cohesion plus 30%, response times improved. The metrics were undeniable. "You're telling me," Thryn said, his voice strained, "that combing their fur, something so trivial, has improved their combat effectiveness?" Tavira nodded, smiling slightly. "I know it sounds crazy, but yes, it's all about how they see themselves in each other." Before he could respond, Silric, a senior cub, stepped forward. "General, with your permission, I'd like to speak." His voice carried authority far beyond his youthful appearance. "Go ahead," Thryn said, curiosity flickering despite himself. "I was skeptical at first," Silric began, his tone calm and thoughtful. "But when Tavira taught me how to care for my fur, it felt different. I felt stronger, more connected to my squad. We started grooming each other, sharing techniques. We trust one another more now. We're working as a team, not just a bunch of solo warriors." Thryn stared at the cub, trying to process the words. Warrior strength was built on independence, not on unity or e-grooming. "And this has made you better fighters?" he asked. Silric nodded. Yes, sir, because we're no longer focused on individual glory. We fight as a unit connected by more than just blood and battle. It's our fur, too. Thryn looked around at his officers, each wearing a similar expression of disbelief. The cubs had always been individualistic, each one focused on their own prowess. But now something had changed. They had evolved into a cohesive unit, and it was all because of something as simple as grooming. General, we have a bigger issue, Call said, breaking the silence. There's been word spreading throughout the facility. Some of the adult warriors want in. They want grooming lessons, sir. Thryn turned sharply to him. What do you mean? The grown, battle-hardened warriors want. Yes, sir. They want to understand the technique, Call interrupted, pulling up new surveillance data. They see the improvement, General, and they want it for themselves. Thryn sank into his chair, his mind spinning. It was absurd, unbelievable. How could something as trivial as grooming, something seen as beneath any true predator, turn the tide of an entire military force? Tavira, seemingly unaware of the chaos she had caused, looked up with a grin. I told you it would catch on, and catch on it did. By the time the High Command arrived for an emergency meeting, it was clear the predator pups weren't just stronger. They were united, more efficient, and bonded in ways no one had anticipated. Their cohesion scores were off the charts, and now the senior warriors were requesting lessons. General, it's not just grooming, Tavira said, standing beside him, watching as the adult warriors gathered around for their own grooming sessions. It's a shift in mindset. It's about working together. They're no longer just focused on fighting. They're learning to care for each other. The ops hall was silent as Thryn looked out at the cubs and their newly adopted techniques. This will spread, he said quietly. And when it does, we'll need to be ready. Tavira raised an eyebrow. Ready for what? Ready, Thryn said, meeting her gaze, to lead a fleet of warriors who care more about their fur than their armaments. Tavira smirked. Well, they'll still be good at killing, but now they'll do it in style. Thryn let out a resigned sigh. He wasn't sure how this had happened or why, but one thing was clear. The future of warfare had changed, and it had started with a hairbrush. As Thryn watched the cubs and their once imposing warriors work together, their grooming routines now a ritual of trust, he felt a weight in his chest that was both heavy and light. The warriors, once driven by individual glory, were now bonded by something more powerful, by their shared vulnerability, their commitment to one another's well-being. For the first time in his career, General Thryn understood what true strength was. It wasn't just in the talons or the armaments. It was in the quiet moments of care, the unspoken trust between comrades, the willingness to fight not for yourself, but for the pack. Sometimes the strongest warriors aren't those who fight alone. They're the ones who fight together, who understand that true power lies not in domination, but in unity. What will you fight for in a world full of chaos and conflict when everything seems to be falling apart? Remember this. Strength isn't just about what you can do on your own. It's about how you uplift those around you, how you build something stronger than just yourself. Like the predator pups, we all have the power to change the world, not through force, but through care and connection. So who will you stand with? The galaxy is watching. It's time to rise, not alone, but together.